How are you? I'm Benny Smiles. I'm about to do the second video in my series deconstructing my track, Hotline Miami theme from the Hotline Miami 2 video game soundtrack. Last week we looked at the drums, and this week I asked for your comments and questions, and there was loads, which is amazing. So from the Instagram, Benny Smiles Music, and from Reddit in particular, we got loads of great questions. One here from qubitrenegade in Reddit Synthwave Producers. Thanks a ton for the breakdown on the drums. So basically, we need the most expensive reverbs in the world and we'll sound like you. He or she is referring to all of the instances of altiverb that I used on the drums in the last video. It's a convolution reverb and it's expensive, but there is a fantastic free alternative called Convology XT, which I've tested side by side with altiverb, running the same impulse responses, and the output more or less nulls. The two of them pretty much cancel if you flip the phase. The two will cancel each other out. So it's virtually identical sonically, but is more fully featured, I feel, than Altiverb, and some really useful features. So that's definitely worth checking out. They also say, would love to hear about the rest of the track, how you compose the melodies, the FX chains, etc. I also always love to hear about all the little ear candy that you don't necessarily hear, but you notice when it's missing. So that's definitely something we can cover, and that's what we're going to look at now. So the first thing is this bass. It's a trillion preset. It's got some sort of pitch mod thing going on, and then it's got some saturation, which kind of brings out some of the furriness. Trillion is the tits. Then this low chorus bass. Same deal, it's another trillion patch. After it, there's a whole bank of effects. So fairly intense on the EQ, pushing a bunch of 1K and totally filtering out the bottom end, which is already covered by that warm bass patch. Then there's some waves, meta flanger, and a ton of top end, like a serious amount of top end with the Oxford EQ. One other thing about that bass is that within Trillion, there is a chorus going on. So what's happening there is that you have what sounds like a very repetitive part. It's the same note just repeating over and over again, which is not massively exciting to listen to, but it's a really useful trick to use modulation on that kind of part to give it some life. Yeah, so you can hear the oscillation happening. The part itself is really static, but the ear hears something changing over time. This high chorus bass. I love this kind of figure. It's like it creates a really driving sort of sense. It's based around an octave. It's going. It's something about it just moves things forward. It's the same trillion patch as the low chorus bass. It's another of these parts. It doesn't change at all. It's the exact same all the way through the song. Sadly, the warm chords part, I cannot get Prophet 2 to reopen, but I do happily have the reamped version of it, which I think provides quite a lot of the tone. So it's this guy. So I have it labeled as reamp, which means that I will have sent it out, the original part being played on the Arteria Prophet V would have gone out of my interface into a Fender. It was a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe at that time, which is a guitar amplifier, and then recorded back into Ableton via, I think, this exact SM57, and then processed a little bit more. Yeah, so it's got the usual very fast pitchy kind of modulation stuff, type style wow and flutter. It's got a short delay, and then this EQ. Then I think the kind of crucial thing is this spring reverb that we looked at last week in the drum video. It's that BX spring from Altiverb. It sounds really lonely or something. It sounds so thin coming out of that guitar amp, which I really like. It gives it some kind of character. But just, yeah, I guess it just sounds cool coming back out through that speaker. So it's kind of analog, I guess. Juicy synths group. Sounds like a kitten. Meow, meow, meow. There's two of those channels combining to harmonize. And on the bus, yeah, more 1K. And a filter delay. And then again, that spring reverb adding tons of the character. It creates this kind of call and response thing with the warm chords, the reamped warm chords. Yeah, it sounds nice. It's real spooky or something. Quite like it. Blips. What are these guys doing? Yeah. So this whole chain, if I disable this, it's the CS80 again by Arturia. It's the really old one with the tiny little interface. Just like utterly fucking impossible to use. Yeah, if I turn everything off, it's pretty dead. Just some EQ. This seems to be like distorting a little, which adds a nice top end to it. It's kind of bitey. This guy. This is one of those impulse responses, pyrotechnics. It's kind of sound designy. It's cool sounding. That's cool. And then it goes out to the same set of return channels that we've looked at in detail in the drum video. Love that spring. Blip reamp. Might be cool to hear the difference between the source track and the reamped track. It's in stereo for a start. That's interesting. I'm not sure if it's just the latency recording back in, like sending out and recording back in, but it creates this kind of interesting rhythm. So if you have some drums in. That's cool. And then with all those effects again. Squirmy. you can hear one crucial thing happening. This filter opening really slowly, so that over the course of time, that gets more and more intense. Yeah, that filter, and then this room reverb, which is cool. It's got a really long pre-delay, which you hear it echoing off nearly half a second later. So it's essentially, it's kind of like a really diffuse delay or something. Then again, going to a ton of my favorite returns. Something, I mean, it just keeps coming back to that spring reverb, and there's something in the character of it that defines the song sonically almost more than anything else. The strings. It makes me think of the music from the Shawshank Redemption. There's 4 parts, all played on Vienna Symphonic Library, Volume 2, which is pretty ancient at this stage. Yeah, so we've got violins playing tremolando, which sounds like this. Like that kind of sound. Does that look like something? Yeah, that doesn't look right, does it? The sostenuto sustained ones. There's a viola playing sustained. Oh, some bad voice leading there, where the chords, there's double stopping for one of those. That means just like 2 notes being played at the same time. And then there's not. Yeah, interesting. VC, the cello. Yeah, so this saturator's doing some kind of harmonic thing that I guess it makes it sound a bit more intense or more bright or more forward. And the pull tech is being used to take, I don't know, it's just generally making it thinner. The whole bus thinner. I'm 90% certain that the reason I would have put that mix saturator on is because around that time I probably watched Pensado's Place with Alan Meyerson, who's a well-known mixer or score known for mixing scores, I think, at this stage more than anything else. And he was talking about using distortion on strings to bring them forward. So I just thought, oh, that's a cool idea, give that a go. So the whole lot then is going through 2 buses, right? One of them is clean. What's it got? It's got all the drum stuff and some of the bass stuff. Then the sidechain bus, which is being triggered from the kick. There's so many elements in this track are sort of just sustained, that long sustained bass or these kind of long drawn out sustained strings. I think that the sidechaining thing triggered from the kick just adds some more rhythmic movement. And I guess it makes the kick sound more powerful because everything ducks very slightly to make way for it. On the mix bus, BX control. Yeah, it's just making everything mono below 120 hertz because I probably heard that that's what you're supposed to do. The Kramer tape. What's this doing? These headphones aren't particularly amazing for referencing stuff, but it feels like it's dulling the transients, which may or may not be something that you want. It's got this wow thing going on. Yeah, on some subtle level, it's adding some pitch modulation and doing some harmonic stuff and taking the front end a little bit off those transients, which arguably, I don't know, it might not be something that you want to happen, but fuck it, man. It seems to make this whole mix sound more cohesive than when it's not there. So I guess it's all right. And that is pretty much it. Thanks a million for watching. I hope that has been helpful. If you have any comments, any suggestions, any questions, please do leave them in the comments below or hit me on Instagram at BennySmilesMusic. Next week's video is going to cover the composition, so including the chords, the structure, the use of arrangement to create tension and release. All of that will be coming next week, so please do subscribe, like this video, please hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next week.